Welcome to another episode of Your Next 50. I am Sylvia, and you're probably noticing that my guest here, while she has the same name, Jennifer, she is not my usual co-host, Jenny Mitchell. It is a week away for Jenny, and I am so excited to host this episode and interview a lovely friend of mine. Her name is Jennifer Ransaw Smith, and she is part of our Women Playing Big series, and you are going to understand why. Jennifer is just stepping out and is such an inspiration to women. She's in the States, but I say she's inspiration to the women around the world as she is stepping up and stepping out and creating this amazing initiative called The Back Room. Before we talk about The Back Room, though, welcome, Jennifer.
Sylvia, thank you for having me. And let me just say, I don't think I've ever told you this, but my grandmother's name is Sylvia.
You did
I
not tell
adore
me
it.
this.
So,
It is an old name. I'm an old soul.
yeah, I love Sylvia.
And there, yes, it's. I don't know many Sylvias in here. I'm in Quebec. For those listening, if you don't know where I am in Montreal, we have a lot of Sylvie, and but not too many Sylvias. But Jennifer must be a very popular name for the women in the 70s. I have a lot of Jennifer friends.
I do too. And my mother swears when she gave me that name, she had never heard another Jennifer. Grew up in Southern California, and I literally had 7 Jennifers in the class at one time.
Wow, 7.
Yeah, 7.
That's crazy.
And let me just go ahead and piggyback off that. Of course, I would marry a Fred Smith. And so can I just say that there was another Jennifer giving birth at the same time?
Oh.
Jennifer Smith at the same time. And my last name became a bone of contention because my husband's kind of, leave it to Beaver and thought that I should not drop my maiden name. And I was like, I am not going to be Jane Doe. I will not be Jennifer Smith. So for the record, I'm always Jennifer Ransaw Smith.
Ah, great story. Names. So, important. And that's a whole other topic. Jennifer, we know each other through a group that we're in. We're in a mastermind group with lovely, women who are running businesses. And you and I share very common interests in elevating women's voices. And you do that through your company called
the Personal Elevation Lab.
I love that. Where you elevate women's voices. And I wrote that here, to elevate professional women so that they can make a name for themselves.
I have dedicated my entire career to branding, advertising, and public relations. And I've dedicated the last 14 years, this February actually, to helping women understand how to control their own narrative and strategically position themselves. And women from every single walk of life, as far as industry is concerned, I feel like far too many people do not understand how to strategically articulate to the world the values they're bringing. They don't know how to differentiate themselves from their competitors. And especially women in your audience. I am a child of 1969. We are having to unlearn a lot of things that we were taught growing up. And so we're like in that weird generation in between where we weren't digital natives. We remember working on brother computers and, all of these things that we grew up, the fax machine. And now we're having to pivot because 50 is not your mother and grandmother's 50. 50 now means you literally can have another 20, 25 years and have an extremely 30 years successful career. I mean, Oprah Winfrey and Ellen DeGeneres are 65 years old and they're still on the cover of every magazine. Yeah. Steve Harvey, and I really like to use him as an example because Steve Harvey is 65 years old and he has 25 jobs. I mean, he's literally Miss USA concert. I mean,
Family Feud. I see him on the clips of Family Feud.
He's on the yacht with his wife every year, living their best life. And so you're talking about 65, and he started reinventing himself in his mid-50s. So
Mm.
you really start looking at what this means. And so we have so many women who were taught to put their head down, who were taught that your time's going to come, and who were taught that, you bring value, you do good work, and you're going to be rewarded because back in the day you were. Back in the day, your
Yeah.
organization would, there was a process, and, there was a way that we did things. You waited your turn. That is not the society we live in anymore. And so we have so many women who are our contemporaries who are like, what the hell? Oh my God. This is not the deck or the hand I was given. So what I do is I help women understand your story, what you're bringing, how you're coming to the table, and let's strategically get you out there in the right kind of way and let the world know who you are.
Yeah, exactly. We need, like, I talk a lot about that. Like, we need to stop hiding. If we do have those visions, there's nothing wrong with having a vision and having dreams. And you're right, because a lot of people will still say, oh, well, why are you not thinking of retirement? And I think someone asked me that recently, and I said, oh no, I have no plans of retiring soon. I have too much fun. I have too many dreams. I want to, I have lots on my plate of where I want to go. But I like how you say that the rules have changed, and we may, we do need that guidance as to how do we get from here, point A to point B. Mm.
And I just want to go back and challenge, I mean, not challenge, but just piggyback off something that you said. You said there's nothing wrong with having a vision. I would say if you don't have a vision, there's a problem.
Mm. Hmm.
And it's okay if you're not really clear about it, but then your time and attention should be, let me figure out what it is. Because the reality is you're here on earth to make an impact. And it doesn't mean, I just find, and you will see, there are a lot of people who spend their entire career working, retire, and just die. And when you're doing things that are challenging, it is, what is the next iteration of my life look like?
Hmm.
So it doesn't necessarily have to be a 9 to 5. It doesn't necessarily have to be an entrepreneur. It could mean that the next iteration, what I want to do is visit every single, continent. It could be that this next iteration, what I want to do is I want to write a book. What it could be, the next iteration, I've always thought that never got a chance to learn how to play the piano or never got a chance to learn how to be an actress. But even when you talk about your next 50, I would challenge everyone in this, who's listening, to what does your next chapter look like? If
Yeah.
you had to give that chapter a title, what does that title look like? And then how do you go all in on that? And then recognizing that that doesn't have to be the final chapter. There can be a chapter after that, and giving yourself permission to breathe, to know that we can have really expansive lives, and we can have really expansive lives that start in our 50s.
They do, and there are lots. I'm thinking of Martha Stewart as well. She didn't start her
Yes.
show until she
She's
was
striking
$47.
Nelson Sorrow in her 70s. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? I
Yeah.
mean, like, literally, one of the best things, I think it's a blessing and a curse, but one of the best things that ever happened to us, also a curse, is Instagram. Because what
Mm.
happens is you are able to take the blinders off, and your life, you're exposed to more than just your inner social circle. So if you have a small social
Mm.
circle of the people in your small town, or you're up in Canada, I'm in the Washington, D.C. area, and 50 or 60 people, then they say you tend to level out with the 7 closest people to you. So you're looking
Mhm.
around and people are on your level. But now all of a sudden you can literally be sitting in your living room and seeing somebody who's 90 years old who says, I'm going to go back and get a PhD. Like, that might not have been anything that you were ever thinking about, but something told you a long time ago, I have to give up that dream because I'm too old. So
Right.
one of the things that we are now being exposed to when you're talking about a Martha Stewart is so many people who are redefining what their lives are looking like, and who are recognizing that, I like to say, you can have a lot of commas and you don't have to have
Yeah.
a period. That has been the biggest challenge for me as a personal brand strategist, because my entire life was dedicated to you figuring out what your niche is and you building a reputation based on that. And that was what I grew up with. That's what I was taught. And then all of a sudden, society changed.
Mm.
And, like, it used to be, I used to tell clients, let's build a name for yourself right now. And then once you step back, we can, you can have brand extensions, but you don't want to be seen as flighty. You don't want to be seen as someone who does a million different things. But now that is straight up commonplace.
Mhm.
Sylvia can run an Airbnb and still have a podcast and still
Mm.
have, a company where you're helping people give birth and still have 25 other things, and it's not looked down upon. I mean, like, actually it's really encouraging to a lot of people, as opposed to back in the day, they were like, what the hell is wrong with Sylvia?
Well,
But
that's it. I was just saying this week, I said my path is not linear at all, but I was listing all of the skills, the transferable skills, and there's so many, right? And going for me, it's following that energy, what lights me up. I've realized I also have a tendency, 10 years, every 10 years I've moved to something else, but it's following that flow, following the joy. Um, what you were saying about Instagram, and there's a lot of amazing profiles of women, older women doing just amazing things. There's a downside to that social
mm,
media, however, I find in my
yes.
practice is where we're comparing ourselves also to a lot younger women,
Mm,
fitter women,
mm,
women just we just compare ourselves. So I like to
mm,
like let's challenge everybody. Take those women that trigger
yes.
you off your feed and let's fill them with amazing women, older than us doing fantastic things in the world.
I think that I told this to our mastermind group, and I will repeat this. This will probably be the only time that you'll hear the name Kardashian come out of my mouth. Um, but one thing that I did read a couple weeks ago is where Khloe Kardashian talked about posting and ghosting and going in, because we're all learning how, especially if you're building a business or that kind of thing, that you need to have visibility, and
Mm,
so, but the reality is, when you have too much time on screen time, it becomes triggering subconsciously and you don't even realize it.
yeah.
And so, also, learning how I realized I was following thousands of people, and I started going through, and I think I eliminated like 400 or 500 just a couple days ago. Just, I'm into the arts now, I'm into certain things,
Mm,
and let me make sure my feed is reflective of that, and not necessarily just people who I was, and so you can be very intentional.
yeah.
And because they've changed the algorithm, and on that, you don't have to worry about your friends saying, oh my God, she's not following me anymore,
Yeah.
unless you were the only follower. But I mean, like, so, like, the reality is, when we talk about stepping into our power, and that kind of thing, saying what is best for me. If I wake up every day and I have an interest, let me take a step back. I have a girlfriend who is 52, 53 years old, and she's a principal, and she has decided to launch a charcuterie board company.
Oh,
So her
love
feed
it.
now is starting to look at, she sent me Martha, other people who are doing that, people who are
Mm,
planners. So you can look at curating your feed in a way that, if you're in gardening, that you're following the people who are putting things out
yeah.
that literally inspire. You can have a open up your feed and feel like, wow, this is a new book I need to get. This is a new, what you call it, this is a new meditation. Or you can open up your feed and say, damn, if they're in the south of France one more time, I'm going to hit my head. You know, so you
Well, I'll raise my hand. I have said that before, but
we
yes,
all,
we
I mean,
all have. Yeah.
but you look at yourself, because you're like, why do I continue to let this sit here? Like,
Mm,
honestly, and it doesn't even mean that something is wrong with them, because they're sharing their truth. But if it's not sitting well or making you feel better or inspired, freaking take it out,
change it.
or they allow you to
Change it.
pause it.
Right.
And I mean, I really started feeling empowered just a couple of days ago, because there's so many people who I follow, who I like, but I'm like, when I see it, I'm not feeling my best self. When I
Hmm.
see it, maybe they're killing it in 4 different ways, or maybe they're doing their book debut and I haven't written mine yet, and it's just not sitting well with me. And so let me start changing it. So every time I open it up, I'm feeling like, level 10. This is
Yeah.
something I want to work towards. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's talk to me now. Let's move in. You are in your early 50s, and I remember you telling us on one of the calls, you said, I had this inspirational moment. You said, I want to give back to my community. And you're like, please, divine God, universe,
Mm.
allow me, give me that idea as to how I can use my skills, perhaps not in another entrepreneurial venture, private entrepreneurial venture, but how can I serve the collective and, women? And you came up with this idea and you said, you got it.
Right,
You
right.
had this
Yeah,
download, and it's
absolutely.
called the back room,
Right, the backroom
the
dinner club.
backroom dinner club. And tell us more about this, because I just find this so inspiring. Go.
So, when we rewind to the pandemic took me out emotionally.
Hmm.
And I don't necessarily mean, for the first time ever, my entire family was home. My daughter was back from college. My husband, who travels, was back home. Everybody was in the house. Here in the States, we were dealing with a political upheaval that just felt like you were trying to hike Mount Kilimanjaro in Christian Louboutins and you were blindfolded. It was just, oh my God, and every time you turned on the news, it was triggering. And that was a baseline. And then add on top of all of that to be Black in America.
Yeah.
And the reality is, I think that it was, how someone can poke something and a whole bunch of pus come out,
Mm.
that you don't realize that something was that infected until that moment. Like I literally, we had gotten so accustomed to, it just is what it is. We're accustomed to, you drive home and that's just the reality. You're going to get pulled over. You get accustomed to certain things that are happening. You go into a store and you get followed. Like it was. And then it was a breaking point. And then we were like, oh my God, wait a minute, this is not normal.
Mm.
Maybe it's not normal for me to go to an elementary school that's named after a KKK. Like it was a whole bunch of stuff that we were like, oh my God,
Yeah. Really.
When I say Sylvia, I was like, literally, let me get a blanket, and I became Netflix's #1 customer.
Yeah.
I literally, but at the same time, I was having conversations, and I was thinking a lot about Germany, a lot, because I had seen this movie, and I cannot remember the movie, but it was a movie about artwork being stolen
Yes.
okay, so you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And it was an amazing, amazing movie. But the scene that always stayed with me, and this was not years ago, this was probably like 4 or 5 years ago that I saw this movie, maybe not even that long, but it was before the pandemic. The scene that stayed with me was it started with a really well-to-do family, and they were in this beautiful home, and everyone was doctors and lawyers, and people were mingling, and they were drinking champagne, and somebody was playing the baby grand piano, beautiful art and everything. And people were talking about, well, it's getting hot around here, and the Germans are coming. Well, not coming because they were in Germany, but and Hitler and da da da. And people were like, oh, everything is good. Like we're all good. And they were like, well, a couple people were like, yeah, well, we're about to be out of here. But everyone else did not believe. Like they, sort of like Ukraine, actually.
Yes.
A couple of weeks ago, they were showing pictures on the street, and none of us, we knew, but like literally everybody's walking around there in their regular coats, beautiful cafes. And then now you're like, oh my God, like in a short period of time. So what started happening was I started feeling like all these things were happening and we can't afford to be on the sideline. Like, oh my God, you tell your kids 3 generations from now, your mama was out. She was so emotionally tired. She was watching Netflix. She was like, I cannot get in that fight. We got the virus running around. I'm not going outside, So I just started, I started walking and I started looking and I started saying, how can I make a difference in the way that I can make a difference? What can I do? What can I do? And I've always been interested in the whole idea of dinner clubs. And then I started reading about a woman who was one of the women who literally changed the game with the Montgomery bus boycott, because she baked chickens and fried chickens, and she would fry chicken dinners. People would buy the fried chicken dinners. When everybody was boycotting from the buses, they paid for taxi cabs because you had to get to work. And I started saying, how can I make sure? And I went to bed literally and woke up with the idea of the Backroom Dinner Club. And the idea is simple. Across the country, Black women have never had a governor. across the country, we have not one Black woman now that Kamala Harris has left in the Senate. We have nobody, giving us a voice. We die at the highest rates when it comes to
Yes.
fibroids, when it comes to, our babies being born premature. I mean, like the statistics, but nobody's giving us any money.
Mhm.
So the idea was, if we simultaneously got groups all around the country at the same time together, and women went and we checked on each other, how are you doing? Let's just have a talk. And we talked about specific, issues and educated ourselves, like maybe cervical cancers this month, maybe Black women who are missing or abused in abusive relationships next month, maybe, helping someone, Val Demings, get into the Senate is next month. And we all just learned everything we could about the issue. We listed videos, we came on, and then you all go out with your friends for dinner, and then you open up your app and simultaneously drop $100 to that organization. If we had 10,000 women, we would be given $1 million.
Yeah.
And so the idea
amazing.
is, collectively, what can we do, and how can we stop waiting for other people to not even recognize, because they're not coming with any money. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's so many things now that need money, so many things, that how can we start funding ourselves? And how can we educate people on the importance of funding ourselves? And so that has been the idea. And I had 2 other women that I had been discussing it with, and they came aboard. And so we have done our pre-launch. We're doing a retreat in the next 2 weeks, and we're in the process of, we have people across the country who volunteered. And so we're in the process of, getting committees and that kind of thing. And so that was just the idea, that I'm at a point in my life where I feel like there's so much going on, and I want to make sure that I'm doing something to be the answer.
I love that, Jennifer. It comes down to that next chapter of your life, how, you were looking at it, and then service to others.
Mm-hmm.
Still while you're running your business and running your family, you have 3 kids, you have a husband and all of that. But I think we overlook that service part of things. And you're right. I was just thinking, here in Canada, we recently had let's say the convoy. Everyone knows the convoy, the trucks moving into the parliament.
Girl, my mouth was open. Oh my God. I was like, oh my God.
The only reason
we do not turn off the TV, because they're about to bring that down here.
Oh yeah. The only reason I bring that up is that committee, they raised a lot of money very quickly for their cause. And so I think there are, when people are tied to a cause,
Mm-hmm.
they will give the money, right? So,
Right.
This cause for you became personal.
Yes.
It's personal, especially living in Washington, D.C. I think you have, you're privy perhaps to news that we don't get, but when it becomes personal, and I think if Jenny were here today, in fundraising, that's what she's always talking about, right? Is connecting the cause to why. So your why, was there a deeper why for you as well? Is this, you mentioned your, future generations, you have children. Is that your why?
I think that, like I said, I think for so long I have been on the phone with my girlfriends complaining. For so long, there's so many things that have pissed me off. I've always been active. I mean, I was the chair of the Women's Commission in my area. I'm in leadership, Howard County. I was doing things, but I think that the catalyst was the election. And everyone knows that if it wasn't for Black women, then Biden wouldn't be in the office,
That's true.
And it's like, for generations, it seems like we've carried America on our back and nobody gives a shit. Like, excuse my language, but that's what's happened. And, it's like, oh, we know the Black women are going to come out. Oh, we know this, or we've been cleaning everybody's houses, or we know this. And we're still the lowest paid. And all of these things have just been, even though we've been making leaps and bounds, things are happening. When you look and you peel back statistically, it's awful. Like, you're just like in shock. You're just like, oh my God, what do you mean? Black women. I mean, Serena Williams almost died, when she gave birth.
Yes.
And I mean, we're talking about somebody who's a multi-millionaire, who was sitting here saying that this is not working. I'm having pain. And they were like, they think that we have a higher tolerance, and so there's so many things, but even ourselves, there's so many things that I don't even know about, like most of my friends, and this is not an exaggeration, have fibroids.
Mm.
Most of my friends have called me and said, Jennifer, I have fibroids. They found them the size of a grapefruit. I've heard that so many times. Like literally, I'm like, how in the heck does that even happen? But outside of that, I don't know anything about fibroids. Outside of
Mhm.
that, I've never given to fibroids. But 5 of my 4 best friends have had them, been in the
Right.
hospital. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like, I think that I have, and it's an American thing. It's, maybe it's a whole continental thing. When you're middle class, you take certain things for granted and you just do your
Yes.
life and you're not really paying attention. I think that we are in a time right now that your issue might not be the backroom issue, but I don't think that anybody can afford to wake up and not have an issue.
Mm.
I
Yes.
just, I just, I mean, when I turn on the television and see what's going on in Ukraine, when I turn on the TV and realize the person who's leading Ukraine was a comedian a couple of years ago, and people thought he was a
Yeah.
joke, and he found his moment, and he's like literally, I mean, Germany's getting in, back into the game. Like, I just really feel like, I mean, all hell is breaking loose across the world, and the way that we're paying for bread and gas, it's impacting all of us. And so it's like a thing that every single person needs to be, what is my thing? You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? What can
Yeah.
I
What part
do?
can I play?
Change over the years because you're going to change. But I just, I mean, I think that it's just for those of us, you say empaths, it's a heavy burden because you're feeling it. You know what I'm saying? You're feeling so much. You turn on the television, you can see people in their eyes. Everyone is struggling, the micro and the macro level. You're struggling in your home. You're struggling with your kids. You're struggling at work. And then everything is just going. So I just think that, if I'm over here raising money and, I get my little 10,000 or not little, but my group, and you're over here doing this and someone's over here making sure the people are here. And then now so many people are going to have to help Ukraine. But I mean, it's not just Ukraine. I mean, hell,
Mm. That's worldwide. Yeah.
I mean, the Russians, oh my God, you know what I'm saying? I mean,
Yeah.
like, they're getting thrown in jail if they even say, it's a war.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and so they don't have McDonald's anymore. They don't have MasterCard. So I just think that all of us collectively have to do a global shift to move us back in alignment. We're off on axis. Our axis is turned upside down.
Totally. Totally. So important, the work you're doing, and I love it. It stems from that curiosity point too. I like how the back room, what you're saying, it's not just Black women in politics. It's not just this. It is, let's highlight the issues that our community is
Yes,
facing, and let's help them raise awareness and
yes,
raise money. And
yes.
I see the reach that you can have with this project, and it's that I just find it very, very
My
inspiring.
my goal is nobody's coming to save us, and so we need to save ourselves.
That's
And
yeah.
my idea is, for years, people have been making decisions in back rooms across the world about us, about our education, about this, about that, and we have not been privy to those back rooms. And so now we're in a position that let's, go ahead and open our pocketbook and let's fund those people that are on the front lines who are advancing Black women's causes.
Ah, I love it. Thank you so much, Jennifer, for coming on the show today.
Yay!
So inspiring. I've been wanting to have you on for a long time. If you're listening to this and this has piqued your curiosity, I mean, this might not be your cause, but what is your cause?
Mhm.
Where do you spend time? What communities are you in that need help? What causes light you up? Not everyone does volunteer work, or, it doesn't mean you need to start a big project like this. You could be part of a bigger project. For some people, it is donating money to cause, and that's their involvement. But I think, like you said, there's a shift in the collective. We need to come together to make this planet better.
Yeah, and look at what triggers you.
Yes,
You know,
yeah.
like,
Those are your guides.
yeah,
Those are your
move your
guides.
body and see. There's certain things that are just, you know, and down here, school councils have been really big down here.
Mm.
People are taking books off the shelves that we grew up with. I mean, there's so many things that it can feel overwhelming that you feel like you can't put your foot in. But I like to look back when you're talking about your next 50. If somebody were saying that you made an impact,
Mm.
and when they're
Yeah.
talking about the legacy that you did, and they're like, she did not even start until she was in her 50s, but over the next 15, 20 years, she really made a significant impact. and whatever that is, and you're, putting little libraries in our community, or, donating book, I mean, whatever, but just
Whatever it is, yeah.
how can you make yourself proud at the end?
Thank you, Jennifer, for that invitation. If you'd like to reach Jennifer, her website is jenniferransawsmith.com. And you can see her on Instagram as well. She's got weekly chats with the ladies at the Back Room Dinner Club every Sunday night, and very interesting, and highlighting the various topics that they want to
Mhm.
address and bringing out the stats, and just making us more knowledgeable about what's happening in our communities. Thank you so much, my friend.
Oh, it's good. I appreciate the invite.
If you are a listener, and please give us come visit us on the Apple or Spotify. Give us a 5-star review if you like what you hear. We'd like some topic suggestions as well. We're always into, if you've got an idea for a guest, if you'd like to be a guest, please reach out. It would be lovely, and we'll be back next week with another episode. And that's all I've got to say. Have a great week, everybody. Bye.